everyone, I'm Taylor Hudak with Activism Munich, and welcome back to another Julian Assange case update. Over the weekend, the DEA Campaign held another online rally in support of Julian Assange to highlight his situation in Belmarsh prison during the lockdown. Special guests included Richard Garside, Faith Spear, and Steve Gillen. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the UK prison system was in a poor state. Sputnik journalist Mohammed El-Mazi reported back in 2019 that the UK Ministry of Justice's latest statistics showed a rise in self-harm and suicide among those in prisons and on probation. The Chief Inspector of Prisons, Peter Clark, revealed in a report that too many prisons have drugs, violence, and are overcrowded. These issues are only exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis and make it much more difficult to control the spread of COVID-19 in the prison system. The director for the Center of Crime and Justice Studies, Richard Garside, weighed in on how prisons act as a hotbed for COVID-19.
This is important because as an epidemiologist by the name of Richard Coker pointed out a few weeks ago, prisons act as what he called epidemiological pumps. And what he meant by that is that, what goes on in prison doesn't stay in prison. You've got enormous circumstances, something of the order of about 1,500 people going in and out of prison every week, as going into prison as prisoners, coming out of prison as released prisoners. Each one of those a potential coronavirus carrier.
As far as oversight, the UK has independent monitoring boards, which consist of volunteers in the public who monitor their local prisons. These volunteers will visit their local prison 3 to 4 times a month and have unrestricted access to the facility to ensure that the proper government standards are being upheld. Criminologist and former prison monitor Faith Spear spoke about how the function of IMBs has changed during the pandemic.
On the 24th of March, I was sent information issued by the Independent Monitoring Board, Head of Policy and Communications. It read, and I quote, "Following the Prime Minister's announcement last night, independent monitoring boards should not visit the establishment they monitor for any purpose and should move fully to indirect monitoring. This includes serious incidents during which boards should arrange to be kept in contact with the command suite via telephone. We will review the position of the government's approach and the changes following the initial 3-week lockdown period." But in my eyes, there's no such thing as indirect monitoring. It continued, and I quote, "It is important to maintain active contact with the establishment by phone, email, and other electronic means. As a minimum, boards should ensure every member is receiving the daily briefing from the establishment and from the prison boards." This meant that IMB members had to rely on the prison staff to pass on any information, further removing any semblance of independence it ever claimed to have. But very little can be verified when you are outside a prison. Indirect monitoring is, at best, from the prison's perspective, and likely to be biased as a consequence.
Additionally, in early April, the UK announced that 4,000 prisoners would be eligible for release to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in prisons. Public Health England recommended that that number be between 10 to 15,000. As of mid-May, Garside said that only 81 prisoners have been released, and Julian Assange is not one of them. Julian remains in Belmarsh prison and has a chronic lung condition and is in poor health. To become more involved in his fight for freedom, visit don'textraditeassange.com and sign the petitions and contact your MPs and local representatives. Activism Munich has consistently reported on the intelligence community's abuse of power in the Assange case. We have previously reported that the Spanish security firm, UC Global, which was tasked with protecting Assange while he was in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, was actually spying on the WikiLeaks founder, his visitors, and his attorneys. Recently, further evidence of American intelligence involvement in this spying operation has come to light in a report released by the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone connected two instances where Sheldon Adelson's company, the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, acted for the CIA. Sheldon Adelson is a billionaire and a supporter of Donald Trump and one of the most influential figures in his circle. Adelson is consistently listed in the Forbes top 10 most wealthy Americans. In July 2016, the co-founder of UC Global, David Morales, attended a security fair in Las Vegas, which was hosted at Las Vegas Sands Expo. According to a witness, Morales was approached by one of Adelson's top bodyguards, Zohar Lahav. Lahav recruited Morales to spy on Julian Assange on behalf of the Americans. Morales then bragged about this to his employees and said that he, quote, went to the dark side. In mid-2017, UC Global staff received orders to place microphones inside the cameras at the embassy. The cameras were just typical CCTV cameras and were intended to protect Assange. This system was then transformed into a spying and surveillance system. Later that year, Morales emailed his staff surveillance instructions in the form of a PowerPoint slideshow, which included directions on how to feed the information to the Americans. The goal was to ensure that the Ecuadorian government did not know this spying operation was taking place. Morales received and emailed the instructions from a static IP address from Adelson's Las Vegas hotel. The Gray Zone obtained the PowerPoint slides of the instructions, which you can see are written in perfect English. Interestingly, Morales almost always wrote to his staff in Spanish, his native language. Because of the increased surveillance, Balthazar Garzon, an attorney for Assange, was also targeted by the UC Global spies as well. A former UC Global employee testified that in November of 2017, Morales was interested in raiding the office of Garzon to obtain information on Assange and provide it to the Americans. Weeks later, Garzon's office was raided by 3 masked men who ignored valuable items and instead rummaged through his documents. In December 2017, Assange and his attorneys were planning a diplomatic exit from the embassy. One of the Ecuadorian diplomats involved in establishing this plan was stopped in Quito, Ecuador, by a masked man and his laptop was stolen. This laptop contained detailed information about the plan to exit the embassy on diplomatic immunity. Since the discovery of UC Global's spying operation on Assange, and considering that his privileged communications with his attorneys have been spied on, many have suggested that is sufficient to throw the case out of court. The foreign minister of Ecuador under Correa, Guillaume Long, told the Gray Zone that the spying operation targeting Assange was, quote, a major breach of sovereignty, of international law and the rules by which international diplomacy is regulated, and it's completely illegal and, I would argue, really undermines the U.S. case for the extradition of Julian Assange, end quote. Now, as we learn more on this case, I, of course, will continue to keep you all updated. So do make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Taylor Hudak with Activism Munich, and I will see you all next time.